All right, everyone, 6 o'clock, we'll call to order our budget hearing.
Commissioner Stottlemyre,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Present.
Chair Waymire,
Present.
Commissioner Dunn,
Present.
Commissioner Dickinson.
Present.
All right. Purpose tonight is indeed our budget and the holder hearings that are required, and we'll start with the presentation.
Okay, so have a short slideshow prepared for you guys regards to the budget. Just basically comparing the budget from last year to the budget this year. You can see that our budget this year is our levied taxes are at $18,297,188, and that is up from last year. Hence, we are not anticipating staying revenue neutral this year. Last year, our budget was $17,541,349. As you can see on the graph here, most of the changes were in our three major funds: the general fund, the road and bridge fund, and employee benefits. The general fund did go down slightly this year, and that was mainly in response to the sales tax. Our sales tax numbers have been coming in stronger the last few years, and so we did make a sales tax adjustment to our general fund revenue, so that and we did make a decrease also to some of our other line items within the general fund. But a lot of that shifted, most of that shifted over to road and bridge. As you commissioners know from sitting in on our budget study session, we made some significant changes to road and bridge, and I'll get to that on the next slide. And with our changes made to road and bridge, it also impacts our employee benefits fund. So I'll discuss that in a minute.
Before you go on, Janet, I would point out, and of course I'm sure you guys recall this, but we were revenue neutral last year, and to try and do that 2 years in a row is incredibly challenging. So we look at this number, and clearly it's, $755,000 increase, but gosh, I mean, we literally stayed flat last year, so.
That's 4.2% increase, 17.5 million to the 18.297, so 4.2, but over 2 years, you're 2.1% averaging, and then of course, that doesn't take into account new taxpayers, so new houses, new buildings, new value.
Yes, and I will add, we've had a substantial number of properties built as part of the neighborhood revitalization program in Ottawa. So, we have to provide the same level of services to new residents as we do to the old residences. So and we really have not added any positions in our budget. So to talk about our budget increases, as you guys already mentioned, the total increase to our budget is $755,839. The majority of that increase is going to our road and bridge department and our sheriff's department to cover salary increases. As discussed in your budget study sessions, we did market increases to those two departments to help them remain competitive in the market. And so the sheriff's department and the road and bridge department will see increases next year for their staff.
And to elaborate on that, when we say stay competitive, we are not talking about staying competitive with Douglas County. We're not talking about staying competitive with the KC Metro. We're talking about staying competitive with Anderson County and Osage County and Miami County. And so we're not, and frankly, the rest of our positions are behind as well, but we did not want to put another adjustment for the whole organization into one budget. So we've got a lot of folks out there. I see Christy Hilliker. She runs our ambulance department. We have asked her and her employees to wait another year for their adjustment because they need one too. And I want to recognize that because that's not an easy thing to do. But in order to have a 2 mil decrease, which is what you're going to see, and keep the momentum that we've built over the last several years, we thought it was more fiscally responsible to break those adjustments up and do basically half of the organization this year and half next year. Now, that doesn't speak to our COLA and merit adjustments, which the whole organization will get those, but we're talking about a true salary adjustment for the sheriff's office and public works. Go ahead, Janet.
Yep, so then furthering the salary discussion, what Derek just mentioned, the COLA and merit increases that are in our pay plan that we have for all of our county employees, and that just helps give a small adjustment every year so we maintain a good quality workforce and we don't lose people because their wages are getting stagnant. So in addition to these adjustments in salaries, that also directly impacts employee benefits. Part of being a governmental entity is we have to pay into CAPERS. And so when we give salary increases, that increases CAPERS, that increases income tax and things like that that we have to pay on behalf of our employees. So another increase that we made this year was an increase to road and bridge equipment. One of you guys' goals that Derek and I have tried to maintain for the last number of years is trying to put money into reserves so that we can make sure that we're not having to finance debt long-term. And that includes financing our equipment such as motor graders, backhoes, things like that, that come at a significant increase to the department. So we did put an additional $500,000 in the Road and Bridge Equipment Fund this year for transfers so that we could make those strides to pay cash for those pieces of equipment instead of paying the financing charges that we have been in the past. In the past, they were much lower because interest rates were significantly lower, but we do not anticipate seeing that continue, so we needed to plan for that. So we also had a significant increase in insurance this year, which I know many homeowners are seeing that too, but we also had a significant increase in that to the tune of about $150,000. And then a couple of other things, the jail had some increased costs this year. Inmate housing cost is going up. And one other thing that I didn't put on here that we discussed during your budget study session, which I have to give kudos to Sheriff Richards. He did work really hard on our contract for medical care for our inmates, and he did get that down from what they initially told us, but there still is a significant increase to that cost this coming year for 25. Some savings that we've seen. We did have money in the budget in 2024 for the Old 50 project. That project is fully funded, and we're able to remove those funds that we were using levied taxes for out of that and shift those to some of these other things so that we didn't see an additional increase in levied taxes. We continue to look for staffing efficiencies wherever we can. We haven't added any positions, but we really haven't recently cut any positions, but we continue to see those efficiencies where, people are adding some duties to their jobs so that we don't have to staff another position.
You guys have heard this so many times, but we haven't said it recently. From when we started, and when I say we, Janet and I, so go back to 2016-ish, we're down just over 10% of our workforce. And that's not open vacancies. Those are positions that we removed. I'm proud to say we didn't put anyone out of a job, but just as positions opened up, we assessed, do we need these? So we're cognizant of this notion that government is constantly growing, but in terms of staff, we have actually shrank appreciably, and that's something that I'm proud of. That's something I'm proud of all of my folks for, because it's these folks in the room that have to bear the brunt of that. They're the ones that, okay, they're now operating their departments with 1, 2 less people, and it puts more on everyone's plate. But we've gotten to the point where we can hire the caliber of person that they can handle that. So better service at a lower cost, like that's a win for everyone, so.
And we continue to reap the rewards of you guys' diligence in using funds that were not tax dollars to pay off things that were being paid for with tax dollars, like the bond payments for the road work that we did. We defeased those bonds, and so we continue to see that benefit there. So we're looking for ways wherever we can to save money, as you guys know, to make sure that we're being diligent with tax dollars.
Are you done with the savings, Janet?
Yep.
Yeah, I told Janet I would jump in. These next slides, well, this one right here is a 20-year trend for Franklin County. Jamie put this together. I love this graph. This graph shows that you've got to go back to 2006 to find a mill levy lower than what we are asking you to approve tonight. And looking back further, I believe you have to go back to 1997 to see a mill levy lower than what we are proposing. We are cognizant, we are so cognizant that values are up. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The county does not control what folks' houses are selling for, but we do control the mill levy. And we have brought the mill levy down. I mean, you see the trend. Look at 17, 18, 19, and then it starts falling off precipitously. And we're trying to continue that while also balancing, taking care of our folks. Because if we don't have folks, I mean, turnover is more expensive than keeping folks and paying them. And that's to say nothing of services that don't get done when you don't have people, so.
Just to piggyback on that a little bit, you know, you guys know that we've asked our department heads to stay as flat as absolutely possible for the last number of years. And that gets harder and harder, that they try to find efficiencies other places so that they don't have to increase. And that's really a testament to the job that they do to try to lower contract prices that they have. I know Derek already mentioned Christy. Christy's always looking for better prices for her supplies that she uses and the ambulances. So we're always trying to do that.
This slide's interesting because there's that 2006, it's one dip, and then it was like, geez Louise, we can't do this, and it went right back up. And I'm sure that there's commissioners here that,
Don, were you by chance on the board then? Do you?
when you cut it really bad and went,
No, yeah, I was.
Yeah,
10 mil.
10 mil decrease, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, okay,
yeah,
And we paid for that later on.
yeah. These next slides I want to talk through. This is comparing our mill levy over the last 6 years with mill levy from the city of Ottawa, 290, and the other school districts. And I want to speak very carefully here. The purpose of these slides is not to critique these other organizations. I am not qualified to comment on the city of Ottawa's budget, 290's budget. I don't study that. But what I do know is they're in the same community that we are, and they are operating under the same economic conditions that we are. If you look at our change over 6 years, that's 13.39 mills that were down. By comparison, over that same time period, Ottawa's down 3.5, 290's down 2.8. You go on to 287, 288, and 289, the slides speak for themselves, but a couple of them are even up during that time period. You add this year's in, we're down 15.6 mills, which makes that disparity even wider. This is something I'm incredibly proud of. Like, this was not easy, and it takes the folks here, it takes the folks that aren't here, it takes you guys, like, the work that we did with those federal stimulus funds, defeasing those bonds, one of the best things I feel like we've ever done, because those payments just came off the books like that. And we used federal money that if we didn't use it, then the counties around us were gonna use it. So it took a lot of work for us to do that. It took a lot of hard decisions, it took a lot of hard work, but to be down 15.6 mills, Colt, I believe you pointed out earlier, that's like a quarter of our entire mill levy that we're down in the last 5 or 6 years, so.
As for these slides, same as you, not to critique the other taxing entities. They have their own representative boards and they make the best decisions for themselves. But when values are going up so quickly, again, we don't have control over what folks sell their houses for, but when values are going up so quickly, there's rightfully expectation from the taxpayer that my tax rate better be going down or else you're just raising my taxes. And I want this to be in there to show that we are doing our best to, bring that tax rate down in a way that reflects the way values are going up, while dealing with rising costs like everyone else, so.
So the last slide that we have is just the overall budget. Just to reiterate what Derek said, our actual mill rate for last year was 49.431. The proposed mill rate for the budget that we put together for you guys is 47.187 mills. That's a decrease of 2.244 mills. That is slightly over revenue neutral still, but it does represent a decrease of, like Derek said, 15.6 mills overall for the last 7 years.
What did we publish? What mill rate?
We published at 48.664, and we're actually going to come in lower than that. Again, just going back to that sales tax discussion, really scrutinizing all the numbers, making sure, again, we were waiting on some adjustments from Sheriff Richards from the jail. Again, we're asking our departments to continually look at these things, and we have to publish by a certain point, get those notices out in the mail. But we were able to bring it down roughly 1.5 mills from where what we sent out on those notices in the mail and what we published in the newspaper. So I think Derek and I are both really happy with that we were able to put out a number initially, but come down off of that. I think that just shows that we're really trying to do the best that we can for our citizens.
I was confident we were gonna get below 48.6, but as you know, if you publish a number, you can't go above, or, yeah,
At
you
that
can't.
point, you're waiting on a lot of figures to come in, a lot
That's right.
of bills and a lot of revenue numbers.
What is a mill worth at that? Do you have any idea?
Yep. Hold on one second.
While she's looking that up, that is effectively our presentation. Colt, happy to answer any questions that you guys have, but as you know, during our budget study sessions, we go through every line of this budget, so you've seen it all.
Right.
$387,000
For one?
for one.
So over almost $600,000. We went down from what our published.
Any other questions for staff?
Not a question, but we did leave one thing. We did build a $500,000 new ambulance station with federal funds, not our collected tax dollars in the county. But I'm sure Anderson and Osage and Miami would have loved to have. And so we did build a brand new ambulance station, be opening to the public next October 3rd for anybody who wants to come up and visit it. And it not only a new station, but where we were located in our old station, this will upgrade the times their get out and go. Going south out of where the old station, we were located in the old Public Works and Fire Department upstairs. There's a train run real often. Or the other way, you had to come clear through town, clear through Wellsville before you got out to the highway. And now we'll be right there on the highway. So it'd be a lot quicker times for Christie's department up there, a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, ground level, not upstairs, and housed with a bunch of other entities, which they got along with fine, but it's always a problem when you have 3 or 4 entities doing different jobs all in the same building.
You touched on it. That's something I'm proud of that we did the last several years is all this federal money that's come our way, as far as the reinvestment, some of the COVID dollars and all that. Instead of taking those and purchasing things that are above and beyond what we have provided that have legacy costs, we could have built a pool, something like, and then there would have been the ongoing cost to staff it and maintain it and all that. Instead, we paid down debt, we paved roads, things that otherwise would have ultimately been levied property tax dollars. And I think it's a very fiscally conservative approach, and I'm glad we took it. So
That was a challenge with all of that stimulus money and not creating new debt streams effectively.
Yeah.
Because obviously you make these one-time purchases and acclimate to it and then you're stuck. But we did a real nice job, I believe, in avoiding that, so.
all right. So number statutory requirements that we need to run through tonight, the first of which is to open a budget hearing for the 2025 Franklin County budget. Need a motion, and a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll open our budget. Anyone who'd like to come down and speak, please do so. If you haven't been here before, we're not doing sign up, so want everybody to have the chance to speak. We'd like to hear your thoughts. We do have a public comment policy, the same as our regular meetings. If you're not familiar with it, 5 minutes to speak. The floor is yours. We're here to listen. And your comments do need to be on topic about the budget. So
When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address.
needs it for the minutes. Anybody like to speak? Come on down. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Vonda Breckheisen. I live at 2504 Idaho Road. And I'm here to tell you my story, or our story. We bought our house in August of 2019. And in that time frame, the appraiser, the county appraiser, has been at our house 4 times to reappraise. Our value has increased 95.32%. Our taxes have increased 71.26%. When will it stop? I went through and did some research. This is a plot of our property. It is probably 40% wooded. It's stone. It's stumps. We cannot till it. We can't hay it. A lot of it is unusable. It's not level. This is also our property, 5 acres. There's about 1 acre that can be used. The rest of it is all woods. The county appraiser has appraised this land at $9,104 average per acre. This land has been appraised at $8,323 per acre. The land directly north of us has a whopping appraised value of $1,920. That's $97 an average acre per acre. There's no haying, there's no agricultural done on it. It's purely recreational. Nobody lives on it. He comes and he mows it a couple times a year. $97 an acre. And we're paying based on $8,300 or $9,100. And it's on a dirt road. Granted, there's gravel on it. The house to the south of this property, which adjoins ours at the back, has an average per acre of $5,400 per acre. This is not fair. There's no reason for it. And why has the appraiser been out 4 times?
I appreciate your concern that this
But it is part of the budget.
is for the budget, but. and
It
if you
is
don't
part of the
follow your-
budget because my taxes pay the budget.
Right.
So the mill levy increases. You're talking about the mill levy decreasing. The mill levy has decreased, which it should, because the property valuations have increased substantially. And so my question is, are you sure you are making the best choices and being the best stewards of our tax dollars? Because you have a lot of people in this community that are on fixed incomes. And when we look at a tax increase on our property alone of 71%, and there's somebody else in the back there, their property values in the same time period have increased 48%. I know it's not you guys selling houses, but there's got to be a point when the property valuations stop. I don't think we could sell our property to make it worth it. Nobody's going to want to come and buy it with this kind of taxes. I'm just here to say that's our story, that's our experience, and so that's all really good that you have decreased mills, but have you done enough? Because people can't, with the inflation, we can't continue to sustain the tax liability that's being put on us. I didn't talk about that.
Anyone else like to speak? Evening.
Greetings. How you doing? Robert Paraso, 2328 Stafford Road. I'm kind of here on the same premise here. I have a letter here that I plan on sending to the commission based on just the property taxes that I have to pay. Over the course of 3 years, the assessed value has increased almost $100,000 on my property. And though you got the mill levies coming down, what are you doing for me to lower my property taxes? Or am I just going to eventually be taxed out of my home? And so when we look at, right after this, I'm going to head up to the school board meeting. And because there's going to be more increases on the school board meetings. And so not only are we getting hit for property taxes, we're getting hit on the school levies, the school budgets. We're getting hit just about everywhere we go. Inflation is up, seeing the price of gas, it's still not where it needs to be. And so I want to know how people like me are going to live when you continue to assess. I mean, in 2022, it went up $24,883. In 2023, it went up $28,000. And then this year, it goes up another $33,000. And I understand you have all your mill levies here and you're bringing all these things down, but it's not helping me at all. All I see is my cost of living going up and up and up. And if anybody has to live even just with the food prices and inflation alone. So I want to know what the commission is going to do for people like me so that I can continue to live. I've been working on the same salary for 15 years. I've had one slight increase. So even though it's basically a fixed income. But what are we doing with the older people that have fixed incomes? They can't just, pull money. I can't just go to my employer and say, hey, I'm charging you more money for my services. And so I'm frustrated. And, I know that you say it's not direct, but it is direct because it all comes from the taxpayer, and I am a taxpayer. And so I just wanted to voice that concern. I'm frustrated, and I'll send this letter out. It's nice. I'm not trying to be condescending or anything like that. I'm just telling you, from my standpoint, I'm just a frustrated person trying to make a living like everybody else. So anyway, thank you.
Is there anything in the budget you're aware of or any services the county provides that you don't value or you think are excessive?
That I don't value? Well, I'm not really within the city limits, and so as far as the city limits, I wouldn't say because I don't pay some of those city taxes, but I'm
In
not.
our budget that we provide or we're proposing, is there any items that you find excessive or services you don't value?
Well, no, I don't, because I haven't gone over the whole budget with a fine-tooth comb, to know what all is in the budget, so I couldn't be able to tell you right now what I think would be a waste or where we could cut or anything like that, to tell you the truth, to be honest. But all I can tell you is that, I had to cancel our Bible study just tonight, just so I could come to a council meeting, because I can't ever get here to say anything. People are busy, people are working, to go over the absolute budget with a fine-tooth comb, I'm relying on all of you to look out for my best interests. That's what we're all here for, right? We're here to help each other, and so I can't give you
Just
one.
asking because I
Yeah.
care, not
Yeah.
not to be
Right,
contrary.
right.
Yeah.
So,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Evening.
Hi, I'm Vicki Burgraff. I live at 4493 Louisiana Road. And I just want to concur with the two people that have spoken already, that we're just being taxed out of our homes. 11 years ago, we moved here to Franklin County, and I love this county. We were in Douglas. You are so much better here. However, when we moved here, we discovered taxes are higher here, and I was told it was because the tax base is smaller. So I kind of understand that, but this year, our appraised value on our house went up $36,000, almost 37. It was 36, 6 something. And that's just incredible. We did not buy the house at that value. It was a short sale house. So if any of you know what a short sale is, we got that house very cheaply, and we do not, the value that's placed on it now is just, we're being taxed out of it. We could not afford it if we had paid the value that's assessed on it now. My husband is retired on a fixed income. I work part-time, just to try and make ends meet and keep up with all of this. So please consider, I appreciate that you're going down in your mills, and if I understood correctly, you're not going to do the maximum tax rate at revenue neutral, so the amounts on this will be lower.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that, but I agree with Mr. Pearsall, if you could just double check your budget, and, our incomes have not gone up. So I haven't gotten a raise in a long time. Unfortunately, Capers doesn't do that. So I'm working part-time to help supplement some things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if there's any way to ever schedule meetings where they're not like 45 minutes apart from here in Pomona, because I'm also going to go to that meeting.
We discussed that, and we do our best to kind of course, by statute, there's a time frame they have to happen in.
Right.
But you have to imagine, it's not just, so if you were a taxpayer in Pomona, right, your school district or Quinamo, I guess, is Pomona, right? So somebody in Osage County could have a meeting in Franklin County to show up. So it's not just coordinating everyone in this county, really, extension district. I mean, there's lots of taxing districts that go over county lines. So to have no conflict would be almost impossible, if that makes sense, but.
Yeah, and
They're not required to tell me until the very last day, and we have to set our budget meeting before we know when anybody else's is,
okay.
so.
Well, I will mention it to the school board also, but like Mr. Pearsall, I'm not a part of his church, but I'm missing my church service tonight and worked all day to come to this meeting. So if there could be something done about that, that would be very helpful.
We usually try to coordinate with the city of Ottawa so that we're not at the same time as them, because we realize that that's where a lot of people
Right.
want to go. I mean, so we do our best to try to coordinate, but it's impossible, like.
Then some of your smaller volunteer boards, there's not necessarily
fire
somebody
district,
there to
your
talk to get an
cemetery
answer to,
district.
so, yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Come on down. Evening.
Name's Ken Lindsay. I'm 4679 Eisenhower Road. I've got basically just two questions. One of them is trying to get the bigger, longer-term picture, because I do have quite a few friends that had very similar sentiments to what they are. They're not quite as well off as I am. Not that I'm not that well off, but I'm interested in two things. How does the sales tax and the mill levies interplay? How much of the budget comes from your mill levies on your actual property, and how much comes from the sales tax and the agreement, county sales tax? And I've been told there's also a sharing thing with Ottawa, given how much interaction. I don't know if that's still true, if that was ever true. I know I was told that. So I'm wondering, when we look at how we balance property taxes and sales taxes, sales, if I'm not making as much and I can't spend as much, it's not as painful as if here's my property and I either give up and sell it and move, or I find a way to come up with money. I mean, right now it's not a problem, but I'm looking at retiring at some point. My body gives up or my mind gives up, and I've been here 20 years, and my plan was to do 20 more, but I've been seeing raises of, my actual taxes going up 20% over a couple years, and I'm kind of concerned how, we're talking about still looking at the details, how much more is the budget realistically going to go up in the next year or two as you start taking care of this? Because I've also looked at staff salaries here. I don't know if I'd use the word competitive even where you're now at, but, they're very low. And with all the other things going up, I understand you'll need to raise folks other than the sheriff's department and the road department. Going forward, what do you project our next couple of years will be? Just if things go roughly like they have been. Those are just my questions.
We'll start with the sales tax. What did you say?
We're budgeting for $2.5 million in sales tax as part of the overall budget at $18 million. It's a small portion of our budget for sales tax. We do levy sales tax for the county, but when the county levies sales tax, we also have to share those sales tax dollars with the small cities that are in the county. And we also have a dedicated sales tax that goes to help fund the hospital. So the city of Ottawa, they don't share any of their sales tax with us. They have dedicated sales tax that's just for the city of Ottawa, and some of the other small cities do also. But I'm not privy to how much their sales tax is.
There are 3 different taxes that the state collects for us that they have chosen, it's in over 20 years, not to give back. This year, it would have been over $1 million. And the county's pushed. It used to be a transfer tax. It was we're going to collect it and then we're going to send it to you. And then they got into budget issues in maybe 2003. At that point, they were like, oh, yeah, that's where we're going to get our money, is we're going to not pay the counties. And at this point, it's still in the budget, they just don't fund it. For the county of Franklin County, it would have been over $1 million this year, which means it had been $20 million in the last 20 years that Franklin County has not gotten. And that would be a great question for your state legislators. They have pretty much taken away everything else but our property tax, and then they complain that our property taxes
The
go up.
question I thought was very, showed good insight or forward thinking about, do we expect the future to continue to, the increases to grow, to stay the same, to sustain, to level off? So this year's increase is 4.2%. Last year, we had 0%. And I think that's forward thinking because, are we creating budgets that make a detriment, right? Are we not taking care of our buildings? Are we not resurfacing our roads? Are we just making a problem that'll add up and be something that the next generation or next board has to deal with and know? Your roads, they're on a 5-year rotation. Our paved roads are, so they get resurfaced. I do not know of any big capital costs. Can't predict a tornado, right? But we're taking care of our buildings. They're not exorbitant, but they're maintained. They're appropriate. Honestly, the biggest looming thing is, and you've mentioned it, trying to stay competitive with wages and paying folks a salary that's adequate to attract the type of people you want to represent work for you. And I think that 4.2%, with inflation, and I think that's not every year 4%, no, but we're going to have to, it's going to be small single digits to stay, to where we can afford to operate the type of government that's functional.
One thing we didn't talk about is that there is a way to keep your taxes from going up, and that's if the tax base increases. Wellsville is growing like crazy. For every new business and every new house that is built in Franklin County, and that's across the county, that increases our tax base, which spreads out the tax burden. So, it's a fine line between how many, places, new people do we want in, and yet if we don't want more new people, then we then our taxes go up. So I see our tax base going up.
Around me, there's been quite a bit of development. I'd say I average a new neighbor within a mile of me about every 6 months. But for me, I'm trying to build out a small micro farming business, and this is one of these things with trees, and this is one of those things that you're not even gonna get payoff until 5, 6, 7 years down the road. And so it's one of those things, I'm at that point, do I start scaling up now? Or am I gonna find myself suddenly hit with such a tax bill 7, 8 years from now that I just have to walk away from my place as I get near, retirement from full-time work to hopefully tending to the small orchard? If I'm looking at 5 times as many taxes 10 years from now, then my orchard's dead on arrival. So that's really my big concern, is not just this year, but next 5 years, next 10 years.
I'm sure you understand.
Should I invest in my place, or should I step back and say, maybe I could go further rural?
I'm sure you understand that lots of taxing entities make up your tax bill, even though the check's made just to the county, but.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Sure. All right, well, thank you. We probably got to 5 minutes, right? Anyone else?
I have a question.
Okay.
It's strictly budget.
Okay.
You talked about the sales tax. What fund are you paying that out of? If I look at your budget hearing, your hospital sales tax had 2.8 million for 23, 3 million for 24.
We don't,
Did you move it to the fund?
no, it's in the revenues in the general fund. We're obligated to pay out the hospital sales tax.
How do you pay it if you don't have it if you don't have budget authority here?
We don't pay, we use that revenue to pay our employees, and that would be reflected in the budget amounts that we have in the individual funds. So the general fund, the road and bridge
We
fund.
have nothing to do with the hospital tax. It's a pass-through. The,
So you don't have to put it on your budget as an expenditure?
It's not an expenditure. It's not an the sales tax,
It's on the report for the budget, but this year there's a blank as no expense or anything.
oh,
That's what I'm asking is we have it reflected as an expenditure for 23, we have an estimate for 24, but for proposed budget expenditures, there's usually.
yeah, so we were waiting for the,
Budget authority.
yes, so it is in the budget, it is in the budget that's right here that we put out tonight.
It doesn't flow to the summary sheet.
Um,
I just don't want you to get in trouble.
It does flow to the summary sheet, it's right there. And it was added on because we were waiting for the projections to come in on how much, because it's a pass-through, as Commissioner Waymire said. It's a pass-through that we have to put forth every,
Has it not been updated on the internet then? Because I printed this off right before I came. I just don't want you to get in trouble.
yeah,
if
it's,
You don't have it
yeah,
published.
it's updated right here, so you can
Yeah,
grab
the
one.
sales tax that we were saying that we use is a completely different than that hospital sales tax. That we never see. It goes straight to the hospital, all of it.
Yeah.
So,
because it
Yeah.
was created by ballot question, shall we levy a half-cent sales tax to support the hospital, and it passed. So we can't not send it. We can't just say how it's used.
So you don't have to have it that, like what you anticipate the expense to be on your public.
Yeah, so it wasn't published there, but it will be in our final budget that's submitted, and it is right here that you can take a look at. I believe we budgeted at $3.3 million to pass through to the hospital.
I mean, like I said, I'm just making sure that you're.
thank you.
Yeah, and we always look at that towards the end of the year and make sure,
Publish your budget if you.
yep, and we make sure that everything is right, and then if we need to republish, we do that. So we have numerous times republished for hospital sales tax because it comes in higher than what we projected at, and so then we have, like Colton said, we have to pay that out. So we make that
Any
adjustment.
other questions on, or comments for the budget hearing portion? Last chance. Need a motion and a second to close the hearing for the 2025 budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion and a second to open the revenue neutral rate hearing for the 2025 county budget.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is a hearing for the neutral rate hearing for the 2025 budget. Anyone like to speak on this item? Last chance. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Is this the one we have to vote yet by person?
We will in just a minute. Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
This would be a motion and a second to vote to exceed the revenue neutral rate for 2025 for the Franklin County budget. Is there a motion?
I will move that we are not going to exceed the revenue neutral rate for 2025.
What? Stop.
So your motion needs to say that you'll be exceeding the revenue neutral rate at 47.187 mils.
Ian made a motion not to exceed the revenue neutral rate, so.
Oh, sorry, that we will exceed the revenue, sorry. I move. Never mind, somebody else make the motion.
Do you rescind your motion?
Is there?
Do you rescind it, Ian?
I rescind my
Okay.
motion.
Is there a motion to, what, did you want to say something?
No, you just need a motion to exceed the
The
revenue.
revenue neutral rate, yeah.
You don't need to, what it is? Okay.
I'll second that then.
I think we need
Your motion.
No, you're going to make the
I'm sorry, I
motion.
thought you did.
No, I know, I rescinded my motion.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm not making any more motions.
Rod's made a motion. Don, do you second it?
Yeah.
All right.
And then just make a note that there was only 3 counties, all state of Kansas last year, that went revenue neutral, and we were one of them.
Yeah.
Commissioner Stottlemyre,
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson.
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer.
Yes. All right. Final item would be to vote to approve the proposed 2025 Franklin County budget. All right, Roy made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson, Commissioner Stottlemyre.
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer.
Yes. All right. We need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.